Hey folks, hope you're doing well out there. The sun's breaking through the clouds. It's a beautiful day, albeit I'm still riding the snowmobile, so that means we're still in the midst of winter, but it's a good day nonetheless. Now, you may know from some of my more recent videos that my brand new Clarke Sawmill has made its way back here to the forest. I am on the cusp of getting that thing up in action, sawing as many logs as it'll take. But before I do that, I just want to take you back to a few weeks where I was down at Clarke Sawmill and I was just looking at my finished sawmill, making sure everything was as I expected before it got delivered here. Now, while I was down there looking at my sawmill, I also took some time to talk to Melvin, the owner of Clarke Sawmills, and he gave me pretty much a once-over of one of the other models there, the Model 50. That was sitting right beside my model, which is now here. So take some time today. Let's jump back in time. We'll head down to Clarke Sawmills, and I'll be back.
So on the 50 here, it comes standard with one tow bar. And basically that's, well, some people call it a taper, I guess, but we call it a tow bar. So for your tapered logs, you can lift up your end of the log. So that's one feature that's kind of nice. A lot of people like it. And then the other one is our back stops or back posts, and they all go up and down on one crank. So basically, that's what that does. That way you're not reaching over to grab them, pull them up, do anything like that. And then as you see, there's a receiver right here as well. So if you're doing a specialty cut and you want to do a 4-foot log, you take the bolt out on the bottom of that back post, and then you crank them up until they start to hop on the sprockets, and then you can lift the one back post out, set it in the front, and then you're good for 4-foot specialty cuts like that. And then the tow boards, you can put up to 3 of them on.
Okay, these are the mounts here, I see, already in place, ready to go?
Yes, they just bolt on, so you can buy another one, put one on the other end, or you can move the one you got back. It's all flexible there. And as far as the clamp goes, we have 2 log clamps. This is the big one you typically use on a round log. And then you also have the small clamp. And what that does is it's for your square cans. So basically, once you have it square, you just slide this in there, and then you clamp it down, and that'll really hold it down to keep it from going back up.
I see that this is movable as well, so you can take your clamps out. I see you've got a little pin here. Your clamps come out, and you've got a number of spots already welded in. So if someone wants to, for whatever reason, move this over here and that one over here, then that's completely possible.
Yes, it's all movable there.
And this right here, I guess you've got everything set up. So like you said, if that tow board, if you needed that down here, everything's in place. You more or less just move it and you're ready to go.
And if you really want to get into it, you can buy 2 more tow boards.
Sure.
Put one on and then...
Yeah. No, that's great. And I see up here, just like on some of your other sawmill models, you've got this. So I guess once you get the cant all squared up, you can drop down the log stops or the log posts and put it directly against the bunk there. Up here, I see we've got this large pulley here. What's that operating?
So this is the up-down. We used to put electric motors on them, and then we kind of changed that because it's a real tough time to hit an exact number that you're after. So if you go to a crank system, a lot of people think it's definitely more work, which it is in a way, and yet it's quicker than the electric motor.
Sure.
Because here's your brake, and here's your crank. And then to go up, it moves fairly fast. Then to come down, you just have to lift it.
Oh, wow.
And then
Yeah, that's something.
And you can really tune it in where you want to go. So let's say you want 3 inches. You're right where you want to be.
Yeah. Can I give that a try? I just, it didn't look like you were having to struggle much. And so, oh, I guess I got to take the brake off. I don't know if I can do this with two hands. Wow. Yeah, it's interesting. You sort of crank on that and you expect it to be a lot of force, but it's not a ton of force. And I'll let this down here, and you've got the brake there. And so I can control it as it comes down, or I can let go of it and run the brake. Yeah, that's quite the system. I like that.
And it is spring assisted. So
okay.
There's a spring on top.
Oh yeah, there's the trick. I couldn't quite figure out why it was so simple to bring up there. And you can see that looks like a spring off of a garage door. So a torsion spring. No, that's great. And in terms of power for this, I see, what's this, a 20.5 Kohler on here?
Yes,
and
that's the standard.
That's the standard. Now, with the engine here, I also see you've got the throttle control, easy to reach here, and you've got your electric stop. I guess this takes the power off the engine.
It does, yes.
On the left, just before we leave that engine, you've got the gas tank and then a primer bulb. So electric start on this unit as well?
Correct, yes. The key is right behind the tube here.
And down here, so this is an 1.25 blade, but you had mentioned 1.5 as an option for this Model 50?
Yes, it comes standard with 1.25, but if you want to go to 1.5, then that's very possible as well.
I also notice you share some parts with some of your other models, which looks great. The roller guides there, I see the adjustability on them. That's very similar to some of the adjustability on some of the other models. So you can certainly dial in the cut, which is quite nice. We'll just duck our way over here. Yeah, and so same thing. I notice you've got the wipe system as well. And so with this sawmill here, these are not belted band wheels. This is a steel band wheel, and so you're running diesel as well with the drip?
Yes, and we just have the single. It's not a dual.
Yes.
A blade loop, just the single.
Sure.
But it's also narrower.
And maybe could we have a look inside here? I want to see that band wheel here. 19 inch, is that right? A 19-inch band wheel?
Yes.
It's nice how it's just steel on steel, so you get that lubrication on there with the diesel, and I'm sure that keeps the band wheels in good shape as well. Just like some of the other sawmills, I'm seeing a bearing on both sides here of the shaft. Adjustability, I guess, if you ever needed to adjust that band wheel.
Same thing.
What are we looking at for a width of cut?
So in this case, it's a 28-inch diameter log, and the throat, we call it a 25. It's probably a bit more.
Oh, okay.
25-inch throat.
One thing that's unique that I haven't seen before, could you show me how this operates here with your guide arm? And I'm also noticing, is that down pressure as well? Like it's putting down pressure on the blade even though you're going in and out?
Yes, so you heard the screech there. That's because this blade is sitting against the back column.
Oh, okay.
That's what you were hearing there. So it should be typically back at 16th up
Yep.
to an eighth of an inch distance there. But as far as the down pressure on this one, we usually put about a quarter of an inch.
Okay, sure. I kind of like that, using the handle. There's nothing to freeze up on you there. And I see you've got the chain here. And so, yeah, that's as easy as you made it look. On this side I'm seeing here, is that to engage the clutch? Is that what that is there?
Yes, it's a belt tightener.
Oh, okay.
So basically the engine rocks
Sure.
on the shaft.
Okay. Maybe I'll duck around to this side. So basically you're just increasing the tension on the belt when you... I gotcha. And it locks into place? Yep.
Yes.
And then I see on this side as well, so here is your blade lube. You filled it up on the other side with that diesel, and you can control the drip there. How does this one work with a spring?
So how this works is you turn the T-handle in and it'll compress your springs. You can see it go together, and then that'll loosen your blade.
Oh, okay.
So to put your tension back on, you turn this back. And we had a lot of problems with this and this being, you're always putting pressure on there and it wants to burr and all that.
Oh, okay.
So we started adding a tapered roller bearing right here, and that really makes it easier.
So the tension on the blade is actually when this is loosened off. Is that right?
Yes.
So the spring is holding the tension on the blade.
Yes.
I got you. And I see you've got two of them here. At this point here, I'm noticing you've got the steel bar, so just for moving forward and back here. And then on this side, you've got your scale. And so I guess as you're operating, you've got the scale in that place. You've got the height indicator right in line so that when you're standing here and you're cranking this, you can sort of watch where the height is. Your other sawmills as well, you've got the little scraper here to scrape any debris that might form on top of the rail here. Now just on this side of the engine here, I'm noticing you've got all your filters. So you've got your fuel filter, your engine oil filter, and then down here, which was kind of neat, sort of reminded me of a boat engine, you've got the bulb for priming the engine. But you've also got the connection point here, so I don't have to bring a jerry can of gas out here to refill it. I can actually just take the hose off and then take the tank. You've got a little bungee cord on there. Take the tank back home, fill it up, take it wherever, and bring it back out here. I like that. So on this side here, I'm just looking. We've got a pretty significant shaft size on both the follower and the driven band wheel. So, Melvin, you said 1.5 inches, is that right?
Yes.
1.5 inches. And I'm also noticing you've got the chute here, which is quite nice. It solid steel directs it downwards, and you've also got the removable, what do you call it there? Fenders. Yeah, that's nice. You can keep them in good shape. You've also got trailer lights already wired in, so you've got the connection up there at the very front. And so this thing's ready to go. You can tow it down the road with the 3,500 pound axle there. And with those removable fenders, I guess once you get to where you're going, you take them off, keep them looking nice, put them back on when you're ready for the highway. At this side, I see we've got these brackets here already mounted on. Is that for something in particular?
Yeah, that's for a bed extension.
Ah, there you go. So if someone needed something longer than this, what length can they order?
You can go to
whatever you want. I guess that's one of those nice things about a welding shop like this. They make this, and as you can see, there's steel here. They can build you what you need, so that's kind of nice. Even if you don't know you need a longer extension, you put it on the mill at this length, and that way down the road you can order it. So for this, Melvin, what are we looking at in this form for log length that we can cut?
So it's 19 feet. It's kind of an odd number, but it works out well with standard 24-foot.
Sure.
Too. So 19 feet, you could maybe squeeze a 19.6 on there. Now, the Model 200, which is the next model up, it would come with a 3-foot longer frame. So you can also get the 50 and get that 3-foot longer frame. Okay.
And one thing I'm noticing here with this model, and I just sort of noticed it standing at this end, the sawmill is actually closer to this wheel than it is to that wheel. Is that for ergonomics, pretty much to make it easier when you're walking? You're not going to bump into a wheel that's sticking out?
That's the idea. So the wheel that's right tight by the frame, that's where you're working, so you don't want a wheel there. And it's sticking out, that's just for going down the road, so it's not a...
Stability, yes.
Stability.
That's a great idea. Safety on the road, especially if you're towing this any distance. One last thing I wanted to ask you about the Model 50 here. So this is a single piece of steel, if I'm not mistaken. I'm looking at the side rails here. What are we looking at size-wise for the steel in this unit?
So the twin rails, they're both a 3x6x1/4 rectangular tube, and then the crossers, they're a 2x4 by 3/16 wall tube. So for the 50, that's fairly standard. As the bigger mills, like the one that Sandy's getting, his would be a 4x8x1/4 tube with a 2x6x1/4 crossers. Now, what would separate this from some of your other models? I know you have a 200 model as well as a 338 and a 350 38. Then the 200 would be the exact same frame, but only 3 feet longer.
Oh, okay.
So and you'd get 2 toe boards on the 200, but the frame part of it is exactly the same. It's just the head. So as far as the head, you get 26-inch band wheels.
Okay.
It's the same width of cut. Everything's the same. You just get a 25 horsepower Kohler gas engine on 26-inch band wheels. You get hydraulic drive.
Yep.
You get hydraulic up and down. and you get a seat that you sit about here roughly with your controls here, and then you ride with your head going back and forth. And otherwise than that, yeah, the 200 is just you could say it's the same log being cut, so to speak, but you get a few more features in there.
Sure.
That's kind of nice to have.
So we talked about the 50 model, we talked about the 200 model, and the 200 model has some of the hydraulic features to it, the seat. And once we get into that 338 model, then we're starting to get even more of those bells and whistles. What types of things might we see on that model?
So the 338 is basically just our new model for the 300. So we used to build a 300, and we kind of took it out and we replaced it with a 338. So the 338 is the exact same frame as the 350-38. It just does not have a log loader. So basically what the 50 stands for is the log loader. So a 338, you get a 38-inch cut, you get the wide frame, the solid frame, and you get the exact same head as what is on the 350. Now a 338 with a gas obviously is our cheapest fully hydraulic mill. And then you can also go with a diesel, that's no problem. And then the 350-38, same machine, just has a log loader on it. And then the 338 XP, it would be our big mill with the big diesel. And it would be designed for log bunks.
Sure.
And then the 350-38 XP, again, the only difference, it has a log loader on it. So
okay.
That's kind of our difference. We have the 50, the 200, the 338, 350-38, 338 XP, and also the 350-38 XP. So that's kind of the overall.
So this model we see in front of us, now this is the model that's coming to my house, the 350-38. This is the one with the log loader, but the 338 you mentioned has the same setup with that sawmill rails and all. This has the diesel option though, the 37 horse diesel. The gas option on the 338 is there though. And what was that? That was a 35 horsepower gas engine. Okay. And obviously that'll change the price point. So someone who's looking for maybe a sawmill, well built, similar size to this, they don't quite need the diesel engine. They can go the gas engine route, a little bit cheaper. And then as you said, the 338 XP model is the bigger engine. And what are we looking at for that bigger engine option?
So that's the same engine again, the 120 horsepower Cummins. That's what we use on the XP machines. That's what's standard. We kind of call it our high production machine. Now, if you want like Sandy said there, if you want a fully hydraulic mill with the option of the big logs, you can go with the gas. You won't really ever get your full production out of it with the gas engine, but it kind of gives you the edge for a couple of big logs. If your standard logs are only 20 inches or smaller, you can saw anything you want, and yet it gives you the flexibility.
Sure. And I guess the thing to point out, a 35 horsepower engine is still a pretty big engine, but if you needed it, you do have those options, which is great. In terms of this model here, this versus the 350-38 XP, what would be the big difference? I guess the engine size, that's one of them. The non-XP model that I've got here has a smaller diesel. Is there anything in particular other than that you're seeing would be different?
So the 350-38 typically is, well, what you see here without the end feed tow board.
Right.
And then if we go to a 350-38 XP, there you get end feed tow boards as standard.
Okay.
And that's the only difference on the frame side of it. But then you go up to the head, you get the 120 horsepower diesel.
Okay.
You get 30-inch band wheels, and you get, well, I almost have to think now. I think that's the main difference. Yes. Is between this one and the XP.
And so I guess for those of you who are going to jump up to that bigger model, that 338 and above, that's when you really start to get the fully hydraulic sawmill. All the extras are available as well, like you mentioned. So I guess if you're interested in finding out more about the board edgers or even any of the sawmills, the 50, the 200, the 338, the 338 XP, the 350 38, the 350 38 XP, Melvin is the person to talk to. And so in this video, in the description, be sure to check out the contact information. And if you want to see more about this sawmill here behind me in action, be sure to tune back into a video very soon. This sawmill, as I said, is heading to my place. It's going to get an awful lot of use. I would encourage you to check out that video. As always, if you haven't done so already, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.